Let me see your face. You are the one from my dreams.
Okay, I'll stop. Back in 1960, a little-known director, you probably haven't heard of him, named Alfred Hitchcock, released a film called Psycho. Apart from being one of the most well-known and studied films ever, it was transgressive in the ways it explored sexuality at the time, brought pulp and slashes into the mainstream, and had a profound effect on filmmaking. One can easily draw a line from Psycho and other influential films in Hitchcock's repertoire to the techniques, editing styles, and shot composition that are used in cinema today. Suffice to say, Psycho, while not wholly original, filmmakers and styles shift, iterate, and build upon one another over time, was and still remains a cultural touchstone if there ever was one. It is very likely that you've heard of it, if not watched it at school or a local cinema at some point. What you may not have heard of, however, is the shot-for-shot remake of Psycho in 1998. Gus Van Sant is a great director, by the way, but on hearing that question, you're probably wondering the same question as I did on learning that. Why? What possible reason would there be to remake Psycho? I think you can see where I'm going with this. When it comes to music, at the very least remastering doesn't fundamentally change the original work. It's a process of taking the original master discs and improving the quality from what was recorded. The distinction between a remaster, remake, and port is honestly a whole other mess by itself, but video games aren't the only thing currently experiencing creative bankruptcy as one IP after another eats itself alive. This will hopefully be a shorter video than usual because what we're talking about is a pretty lukewarm take as it is, but let's have a look at Oblivion for example. I have a good 2, maybe 300 hours on PC, both in its original form and heavily modded as well. No one's going to argue about the faces. They're the kind of thing that not even a mother could love. But what it does have is something that Unreal Engine 5 slop doesn't. Artistry and intent. Art is a term that gets thrown around ad nauseum nowadays, to the point it feels kind of vague and applied to whatever you personally want it to be. But when I've talked about artistic integrity before, it's the idea that something serves a singular vision, a desire to express and create something in a genuine way. The problem with remakes, remasters, and whatever is that they're not really trying to do anything. They're purely products and cynical by design. We could go down another whole rabbit hole about tech debt and how, unlike films or music for example, technology is deprecated over time. This is often the fallback excuse, that something is too outdated or the graphics are too ugly, and Joe Schmo wants as little friction as possible when spending his hard-earned money. You cannot seriously tell me, however, that simply because the lighting looks more dramatic, that it's more realistic. Oblivion Remastered was made by people who cared. The performance alone dispels that idea. It's a great example of taking something special, yes, even for its time, and boiling it down into mass-market, cash-grab slop. If we compare the UI, the difference is night and day. Bethesda has a long history of prioritizing consoles. Morrowind on the original Xbox played a key part in shaping the studio as it is today. UX and the feel of these systems is a different story. I'm talking more about cohesion and design. The parchment look of Oblivion's original UI is timeless. It has texture to it, literally, and contributes to the idea that you're actually flicking through a journal as the character in-world. Contrast this with the Skyrimified, soulless crap of the remaster. All the personality has been stripped away for the same old boring minimalistic design. The font is at least trying to be reminiscent, but it looks cheap as hell. Really, the whole game does. A cheap imitation lacking the soul of the original. It was cohesive. The cheesy voice acting fit the tone and the world. I usually hate bright, colourful RPGs because of the association with cartoonish MMOs, but Oblivion was special. The faces look better, sure, but they've also hit the uncanny valley in a way that's hard to describe, like they've been yassified. None of this can hold a candle, though, to what a train wreck the lighting is. All the charm of the original is gone. Ask yourself this: as dated as Oblivion may be, as dumbed down as its mechanics compared to Morrowind may be, is simply making something higher fidelity worth the cost? It's slop in the same way as Starfield was, visually pleasing maybe, but utterly forgettable. Give it a few months, the post-nut clarity will wear off, and the remaster will fade into obscurity, while the whole reason it was commercially successful in the first place, the original game, still endures after 20 years. At least it just butchered visuals and not everything else about it. Silent Hill 2 is art in its truest form, and the kind of game bigger studios with 10 times the budget have failed spectacularly at replicating. It's also a story that can only be told as a game. The weird, esoteric horror is done in a way that only the Japanese would understand. Imagine, then, that you are handed the keys to an entirely unnecessary remake. Konami has already done its best to desecrate its once great franchises as it is, but just when you thought an interactive show wasn't bad enough, you have the complete hacks at Bloober Team boil down one of the best games ever into tasteless, bland, commercialized shit. If there was ever a game that went hand in hand with the term artistic integrity, it would be Silent Hill 2. The funny thing is, I'm not even really into survival horror. Fixed cameras and tank controls annoys the hell out of me, but that cannot detract from the importance of this particular story told at this particular time by this once-in-a-lifetime team of talented, creative people. Making it for modern audiences, the fact that Ito and Akira Yamaoka joined in for the sake of trying to save it from being completely defiled by a studio who built their reputation as PT-inspired hacks. And oh man, what the hell did they do to the voice acting? Tourists may dismiss the voice acting of the original game as bad, but its reputation is undeserved. In much the same way that J-horror came to be imitated by the West, the dreamy, uncanny feeling of Silent Hill's strange look in America was done with clear intention. The voice acting is strange because the whole world of Silent Hill is strange. It's deliberately evocative of David Lynch's films and the feeling that something is not quite right. James Sunderland is Guy Seehey. His character transcends imitation. Angela is Donna Burke. There isn't a single game before or since that has so perfectly captured traumatic experience. And my god, there is no one that could have possibly pulled off the same performance as Monica Taylor Horgan as Mary and Maria. The letter at the end of the game is emotionally devastating and just about as good as voice acting can possibly get. Compare this to the garbage that is somehow being heralded as the same level of the original. There are QuickTime events, there's the clunky gameplay, the Naughty Dog-esque film score reject camera work, the redesign of characters, the dumbing down of themes deemed too problematic, the sheer conceit, the arrogance to think you have what it takes to recapture lightning in a bottle when your studio is a bunch of hacks that have continued to fail upwards when all you should be making is more shovelware is disgraceful. What a perfect example of how remake culture cannot create anything by its own means. It must modernize, it must defile, and it must strip away all the soul, everything good about the original, so it will blend into a grey, tasteless slop. The sad part is that nostalgia bait continues to be commercially successful. Every now and again, you might get the occasional misfire like Ghostbusters 2016 or Terminator Dark Fate, but audiences flock to remakes for the same reason they flock to the Marvel Cinematic Universe: brand recognition and safe, designed by committee garbage. If you are one of the people who does want more originality and creative risks, stop buying into it. There's a saying that we all get the world we deserve, and I can tell you from personal experience that companies do not look at award ceremonies. They do not look at reviews. They look at the bottom line. Hit them where it hurts and let them know they have to do better.